Hello there, welcome to another episode of World of Tanks with Ungainly Titan. I've purchased the Object 416 and after 6 games I'm calling a halt. I'm not going to continue on this line. Now I suppose I better explain myself a little bit. I don't think they're bad tanks. I think they're probably quite good tanks if you have the playstyle or you can adopt the playstyle that these tanks are suited for. But I can't really do it, and it's not a line that I found fun. I didn't find the A44 particularly fun. I mean, I've had some good games in the A44, but I didn't find it fun. I don't like the lack of gun depression. I don't like the inflexibility of the tank, really. There is just a lot of this. It's a tank, I think, that requires a lot more patience and a lot more aggressiveness, a mixture kind of patient aggressiveness and very good situational awareness. That series of combinations that I don't really have. I can be aggressive, overly aggressive at times. My situational awareness frequently lets me down. And this really is about finding the right target to bully with this tank. The armour is pretty good. And the armour in the A44 isn't bad. This is an objectively much better tank than the A44. Even though it doesn't have a fully traversable turret, which I didn't know. No, that turret doesn't go around all the way. However, it does go around a considerable distance. So the problem I have with it is that if you can find a tank, point the front of the tank at the enemy, keep the front of the tank pointed at it, keep the gun shooting into it, you will do him down pretty quickly. And you will bounce shots in return as long as you keep wiggling the tank and shaking it about and moving back and forth so that it doesn't get an easy mark on any particular aspect of your tank. You don't want to show the sides because if you're too far to the side, you don't have great armor on the sides, and if you're too far to the side as well, you can't bring the gun to bear. So you need to keep the front of the tank pointed. You don't circle people to death in this tank. You let them try and circle you to death. Keep the front of the tank pointed towards them, and just put rounds into them as they keep going around you. The traverse turn is pretty fast. View range isn't great. I suppose it's okay for Russian mediums. I don't know about the other Russian mediums. I haven't really played with them much. Gun handling is poor enough, but the real problem is lack of gun depression and lack of gun elevation. So you can find yourself caught on terrain, simply unable to bring the gun to bear. You're either downslope on too steep a slope and you can't elevate the gun enough, or you're upslope or even on level ground and you just can't bring the gun down. A lot of the time, to shoot at people, you need to go on the forward slope with the gun slightly facing down, or the tank slightly facing downwards, so that you can compensate for unevenness in terrain when you're tracking another tank. So my basic issue is that I didn't particularly enjoy the A44, and having played through the A44 and having played 6 games in this, I don't particularly enjoy this, and I won't for the same reason that I didn't enjoy the A44. And then this would lead on to the Object 430 version 2. Well, it also leads on to the T54. But the T54 I can get at by playing the T43 and the T44, and they look like they'd be far more enjoyable tanks for me than this thing is. And the Object 430 version 2 is a similar profile of a tank, similar configuration, flat, small, low profile. Rear mounted turret, which consequence very little elevation, very little gun depression. I have no idea about the gun handling. The armour is probably going to be better. I know that I have faced these tanks in the past, and they can be ferocious opponents when you're caught, shall we say, on the kind of fight that they want. And of course that they're in the hands of a competent player. If you catch them in the terrain that suits you or in the hands of an incompetent player, then you'll have a considerable advantage on these against these tanks. But when they're in the hands of a player that knows what they're doing and is good at playing these tanks, they're actually very, very formidable opponents altogether, and you will find a great difficulty in dealing with them. So this is definitely a first for me in World of Tanks. I mean, I have given up on particular packages in tanks, and I have sometimes given up on a tank maybe and just finished it off with free XP. I did, when the second line of British mediums were introduced, alright, I did skip the low tiered British mediums because at the time I just had so many I had a lot of free XP and I had so many on ground tank lines that I just wanted to get into something new or something different, shall we say. So I remember going straight to the Sherman 3, because I hadn't played the Sherman 3, whereas the Grant is just a Lee with a gun on the other side. And to be honest with you, the Lee is a terrible tank, but I hate these tanks worse. I'd rather play the Lee than I'd play one of these things anymore. I think I'd probably do better in the Lee as well. That said, don't get me wrong, like, I don't think they're bad tanks. I just think that they require a playstyle and that I'm just not suited for and I'm not good at. And I don't particularly enjoy, which is the more important aspect of it. There's no point in doing this if it's not fun. And I think definitely there are players who probably will find these tanks fun. Although, that said, you don't see them as much as you might. There are around, and the people who have them tend to be pretty good with them, but they're not as common, I think, as certainly not as common as they used to be. I definitely remember seeing more of them in the past. But I also think that may be that a lot of the people who are out and out medium tank players, and there is a body of people who play World of Tanks, and they are pretty much medium players. They don't play heavies and they don't play TDs. They play mediums, just as you get a body of people who are light tank players. And I think a lot of the medium tank players have moved on to stuff like the Czech tanks and the Chinese mediums and things like that, because they're new and it's a whole new challenge for these people, so they've moved on. So that's possibly a reason that you don't see these things as much either. But I can safely say that if you're a player and you're working your way into the A44 and you've gotten a certain way through the A44 and you really don't like the tank, that I can safely say that you need to bother with the rest of the line, because you won't like this one, even though it is definitely a better tank. It's far superior to the A44, but it's the same play style. And you probably almost certainly won't like the Object 430 version 2, because it's going to be the same playstyle of tank again. They do what they do, and that's pretty much it as far as I can tell. The kind of medium tank that I prefer is, you know, my favourite ones are probably the Comet, the Pershing, the T95E2. I like the CDC, even though it hasn't the armour and I'm not very good in it. I liked the Centurions, but I wasn't very good on them again. But again, that's kind of early in my days when I was starting to learn how to play World of Tanks properly. Stuff like the Shermans and things like that are actually sufficiently far back that I don't really remember. I was terrible at the time, generically terrible. But I don't really remember those games that well and how I played and what exactly they were like. But yes, for preference, I like mobility, view range and gun depression. I like to be able to ridgeline, fight, ridgeline snipe and relocate behind the ridgeline back to the next ridgeline, rather than having to go in on people and be able to judge the moment when you can go in on them and pull it off, so to speak, and have just kind of a drive-by shooting where you go in, you pop it round, pop back into cover and then wait for the person to forget about you and do it again. So definitely stopping here, not going further in this line. We'll probably review it when I complete the Russians as to what I'm going to do about it at the end. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please give it a like. If you haven't already done so, please give the channel a subscription. Thank you for watching once again, and I will catch you all again soon. See you in the next one.